the powers that be try to make sure that they're doing everything to disarm, urban America for the most part, specifically but not limited to. Because empowering those people would expose the fact that they're actually not the powers that be. We are. The problem is if you can, de-pine a porcupine, it's easy prey, and so we the porcupines, we run around here with spines and quails and things that can defend us. So if we can, if those false powers that be can convince us to give away our ability to defend ourselves and defend our value systems, it's easy to neutralize them. I mean, every time in human history, there's always been a de-armament prior to a subjugation. It's not new. It's just that we kind of got short attention spans and memories, or we don't even know about the historical framework of what actually has been going down in a global context. So, I mean, it's to their advantage. If it's one of me and I don't believe in equality, and it's 10 people in the room, of course I want to be the only person in the room with guns. Of course I want to keep those remaining 9 people not communicating with each other, just babbling at each other. I want the Tower of Babel. I want, the general population, the citizens, the people that I'm actually supposed to be working for. If I don't actually want to do the work, but I want all of the, rewards, I just convince people to move in their own disinterest. And over time, I have small, maybe 1 or 2 of those people. I pull them out and I help. We share the lion's share of power. But when it get down to the brass tacks of it, you have to de-arm me in order to do that. And anyone that pays attention to American history in any way, shape, or form knows, when shit got crazy in the British, we was like, no, Americans, the founding fathers and people to this nation shot them. It ain't complicated. If you don't have the means to defend your value systems and your beliefs, you don't have any. So, it's intricate for them to try to de-arm us. Not me and my hood, because we strapped, so that's just what that is. Oh, because anytime you want to learn about something, I'm inspired by the natural genesis of it. Anytime you want to learn about something, you have to go to the natural genesis. And the natural genesis of gun control in America is racism. Before America was even technically America. You know what I mean? Even after, Louisiana Purchase, slave codes, black laws, all of these things. The natives to this land, in first federal gun grab, I say this 1,000 times, Wounded Knee. Melanated beings, whether you call it black or Choctaw or Pawnee or Iroquois or in Pennsylvania, Lenape, whatever, to get that guns out of the hands of melanated beings was a part of a very racist section of, Americans at the time, or what we identified as Americans at the time. They came to Turtle Island taking things. Now listen, don't get me wrong. I live here. I'm just a student of history. But the origin and the natural genesis of that is racism. Even after America, every state was constitutional carry. Every state's constitutional carry. Oh, emancipation happens. Now we got to have a different set of rules for the black people that we were just brutalizing and holding captive for however many years. Outside of the fact that some parts of that story is false, because a small percentage of the population owned other people, and it also was free, because I want to make sure that's said too. They'll try to paint the narrative like, oh, every melanated being in America was a slave. No, that's not the case. But, that's the origin and the natural genesis of gun control. America was founded on firearms, and then it's a contradiction of the highest order to say, oh, but only some people can have firearms now. And it being based on your melanin content is racist by the very definition. And it goes directly in opposition to all of the framework of what we've, based this nation upon. Oh, Harriet Tubman, she was a G for real. She ain't give a fuck about none of that, and I love it. You know, or you're not supposed to read. You're not supposed to free people. You're not supposed to have a gun. She had a gun, so she put a big middle finger up to that, and I love it. That's feminism. You know what I'm saying? That's liberty in action. So, and I love that, and I think that more people should be safe and responsible firearm owners. But I'm not telling anybody to go to jail or prison. Obviously, at the same time, you have to be aware that there's a difference between morality, you know, and legality. So just because you can make a rule about something, like slavery was the rule, that morally, I'm pretty sure most people watching this doc right now will be like, yeah, it's kind of bad to own people. You know what I'm saying? And so now, in 100 years, if we do this right, people will go, yeah, it's kind of wrong to like tell people they don't have the means that they shouldn't be able to defend themselves. And that's in essence what they were telling people like Harriet Tubman. And that's in essence why Harriet Tubman was like, fuck you, I'm out of here. Then, after that, came back and fought to free more people, led an entire regiment in the army. Harriet was G as they come. The name of the store that we opened and where we at right now is going to be called Harriet's. You know, so she an OG for sure. It's controversial of Malcolm holding a rifle depending on who you ask. If you ask people that didn't know that there was a gun safety protocol and that there was none at that day, they'll say, why is his finger on the trigger? And that's controversial to them. Some people will say it was controversial because it was a gun in general. You know, some people that don't understand the type of terroristic attacks that he and other African Americans were under at that time, if they don't really know the knowledge, they'll say, well, why did he have to have a gun at the window? Well, maybe because his family's house was firebombed. His house was firebombed. Yeah, so I want to know who pulling up in my driveway. You know, so it's controversial because to the people that aren't aware, the people that understand freedom and liberation, you come knock on my door at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm coming to the door with a gun too. Might be a handgun, might be a rifle. I don't know. It depends on how I feel that night. You know, but I think it's controversial because we've gotten so far away from the concept that a firearm is how we defend and protect our freedoms. You know, we cook burgers on the 4th of July, we light off the fireworks, but I think some reattachment to those serious issues. Why are there fireworks? That represents the cannons going off for liberation. You know, and so it's controversial if you're uneducated. It's no different than everything that you think is a design, or that's a cute design. That's a symbol. It's a language. It's only a design to you if you don't speak the language, you know? And so it's the same thing. It's controversial if you don't understand the fight that we in for freedom. Malcolm X was a patriot of the highest order. Oh, the mo for that. That was passed by, you know, a lot of my right-leaning and Republican friends. Their hero, Ronald Reagan. I actually have the paperwork where Ronald Reagan, Mulford, he wrote a letter to Mulford saying, we're watching some of the bills that you're trying to push, and if it gets through, he was going to sign it. I have that paperwork. It's been, you know, freedom of information. Time has passed, so now it's available. But it was stopped to keep black people from having their firearms, and that's partially why, that's a major reason why California's in the slave state space that it's in now, especially in regards to firearms. It was to deliberately stop the Black Panthers that were being brutalized by corrupt portions of law enforcement at that time. And they were doing nothing but exercising their human right to self-defense as stated in the Second Amendment. And Ronald Reagan, was not pro-gun, was not pro-liberty. Ronald Reagan I have a video of him on my Instagram of him talking about, he's a supporter of this, I'm paraphrasing, he's a Second Amendment supporter, but machine guns have no right to defend. Like, I have that video. It's like him saying it. So Reagan wasn't this like great president that people try to act like he was. His moves in ushering in the crack epidemic damn near destroyed and decimated my community. So Reagan was in alignment with very anti-freedom, very anti-American legislation known as the Mulford Act, designed to stop black people that were just trying to get a little bit of freedom or exercise their freedoms. I started Black Guns Matter because we saw a need that there was a serious deficiency in Second Amendment information, firearm safety training and education, and just a general, understanding that we run this, that we the people, especially in urban demographics. So I wanted Black Guns Matter to reflect that, to give people an understanding of that. And then it kept snowballing, and we've gotten larger and larger, and more people are down with us. How the leaders, the hood love us. Law enforcement, if they legit, they love what we do. I've got hundreds of emails from law enforcement officers around the country saying, yeah, man, you're right. Safe and responsible gun ownership is the way to go. We come here after the fact. We come to clean up the mess and take notes. We can't protect you. We at best 5 to 8 minutes away. So the leaders, whether they law enforcement, and when I say leader, I mean a woman or man that is doing positive things for and with and in the community. Whether they politicians or whether they clergymen and women or whether they, just guys, OGs, guys that did some time, they got some credibility. They love what we're doing. They know what time it is. They know the racist roots of gun control. When you're from a demographic, you understand how the understanding of how things are written and how they're applied. And we see the corruption and how it's being applied in our community. So the leaders are willing to support things that can reverse that. So we get love. The hood love me. All of the hood. Listen, like Nipsey Hussle said, I got respect in 100 sets. You know what I mean? And I'm honored to be able to say that I have respect from leadership and communities all across America. They love what we do. I've gotten pushback in our efforts from jealous people. Guys, usually it's in the gun community. Guys that's mad. I caught a false rape charge years ago, and it got withdrawn by a judge. And that was some of the most trying and informative times of my life, because people say innocent until proven guilty, but then when you accused of something, especially something heinous as rape, it's like, people fall back. So some of those guys in the gun community that were jealous of me got hold of that information. Gun community, supposed conscious community, or people actors that just wanted to be what we were doing, that didn't have no real credibility in the community. It usually comes from them people. You know how it is. See Jesus, see Judas. See Caesar, see Brutus. You know what I'm saying? So it's usually from people closest, people that you can't be friends with because they want your life, literally or figuratively. So that's usually where I get pushback from, but from beginners and anti-gun, even quote-unquote people that think they anti-gun, knowing that I'm not attacking them, and we trying to get to the same place of education, mitigating trauma, while preserving freedoms. Once they have a conversation or come to a class, they see what we doing, they not anti-gun. They go like, oh, I was missing information. But the pushback comes from people that's really just haters, that's jealous. And they're not really haters. There's no such thing. They just love me, and they don't really know how to express that love. You know what I mean? It's a thin line between love and hate. So that's where we generally get the most pushback. But that's usually on social media. I tell people where I'm at all the time. I tweet it. My exact location is whatever. If anybody want to come holler at me and address me in person, they fully welcome to do so. But it's hard to find somebody that got a gun. So, and it's cool though. That's nothing. Malcolm X said, if you have no critics, you'll more than likely have no success. So I ain't really tripping about that pushback. Having like Nipsey Hussle said again, having strong enemies is a blessing. I came to realize that I was a libertarian. For a few years, I was a Republican. I was raised Democratic. So it's kind of like religion. I was raised Christian. Then certain things I had questions with. The Christian people couldn't really answer it, the leaders there. And I started to see contradictions. Then I went into Islam, studied that, saw contradictions. And it's a natural progression. Then you go into Buddhism or Shintoism or 5%, whatever. Okay, Democrat, I'm raised here, but how come every hood that I go to that's democratically ran is a shithole or has shithole tendencies? You ask those questions, Democratic leadership can't give you an answer. Then you go into Republicans, you're like, okay, I know what a republic is. This is actually a republic, but the individual is the highest republic, the sovereign entity. You know what I mean? But then you start getting leadership from some Republican leadership, and they soft, they rhinos. So it's like, all right, well, when are we going to be about liberty? I'm in Philly, and then you start to see, you keep graduating up and evolving. And I'm probably on my way to ANCAP, to be perfectly honest, if I keep evaluating it, unless my party can, if we make significant changes, and that's the beauty, it's not even unless, because libertarianism has like 5 or 6 different gradations. ANCAP to small L libertarian, and it's, I like that balance. I like that everything doesn't have to be black and white. There's shades, and so one of my biggest hip hop artists, I'm a fan of his. He's a libertarian, Big Boy from Outkast. So it's like, okay, these are in alignment with the ways that I think. Anyone that continues to do consistent study about the political process and not get their political education up, the natural progression is going to be in a liberty-based ideology. And then you continue to shed more and more masters and more shackles to the point where you lean more towards an anarchist. And that does not mean you want chaos. That just means I want to be responsible for myself. I don't want to master, and that's how I got to libertarianism. Yeah, there's a few people that were very influential to me that I think everyone should check into. I think people should look into Friedman. I think people should look into Malcolm X. I think people should look into Thomas Paine. I think people should look into Rothbard. There's a bunch of people from different, I think people should look into Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells. These were all people that were very influential into me merging concepts. They all fall under the banner of liberty, economic liberty, financial liberty, political liberty, all of these other different things. So these are some of the people I think everybody should check into. When they check into them, they should start merging the philosophies and seeing the commonalities. You can't say freedom without saying a Malcolm X. You can't say liberty without saying Thomas Paine. You can't ignore Patrick Henry. You can't ignore, people that are creating things like Bitcoin. So we got historical references and current day references that, I challenge everyone to look into and just have, and then critique them. Evaluate them and critique them and see, chew the meat, spit out the bone, chew the vegetable, fruit, spit out the seed. Hold on to the seed, you might need to grow something later. And don't be a slave to their ideology, but merge as much as you can.